Hi, Misha here, and I've decided the proper word for what it feels like out here is stickly. I don't know what that means, but when I said that word, I bet it just you get it. It is sticky and humid, and let's talk about this. Here's a Ruger. We haven't done Ruger Mini-14s on the channel in a long time. And with the kind of reintroduction of this model, government model or the police or law enforcement or the A-team model, whatever you prefer, seemed like a good time. But this is an old school one here. That was graciously loaned by my friend Tim over at the old Highway 7 gun shop. He had this. So what we're going to do, talk about is the history, the features, pros and cons, and we might drag in one of the current 2024 models. What do you think? But first, yeah, let's go back to an older one here. This one's pretty well correct with the factory stock, kind of Bakelite style grip. It's got the 18-inch tapered barrel, standard bayonet lug, and the very unique flash hider, protected front sight. Now this one does have the bottom sling swivel cap here. It should have the side cap. He does have that. I don't know why, and it's missing the rear, but hey, you know, it's cool. These have kind of gone up in value. Once upon a time you could actually get surplus prison guard guns of these, and they're a pretty good deal. This is one of the coolest looking folding stocks. Absolutely. Problem is, it's not so much the most comfortable. Anyway, before we dive in, if you could, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help the channel, check out Patreon. Definitely stickly out here. Mini-14 GB original. Held open. And we've actually been, if not run indoors, at least run under the porch by, well, hurricane surplus weather. Yeah, but the Mini-14 GB has always been a pretty nifty model. I mean, it has the typical failings of the Mini-14 early on. Accuracy, not fantastic, I'm sure you know that. But reliability was great, especially these mags. That was kind of the attractor to a lot of folks, police, ranchers, shooters, who didn't really care about super accuracy, but just needed to have something go boom all the time. Folks forget that in the 70s, even 80s, AR-15 mags weren't the best in terms of reliability. So when this was introduced, the original version in 73, these mags, kind of inspired by the M14, other similar semi-rock and locks, they were steel. They were a little more spendy than maybe others and whatnot. And one funny thing is that even today, a lot of folks just assume the Mini-14 accepts Stanag mags, but nope. Now the standard version, you go through the series 180, 181. In 79, the Mini-14 GB was introduced. And essentially the GB is the semi-automatic law enforcement version. And then the, of course, full auto is the AC556. The AC556F, side building stock, had an 18-inch barrel, still that original lightweight profile. And then the 556K had the shorter 13-inch barrel. And originally, these were 223. We won't actually see true 556 marked examples until much, much later. But it was a pretty unique style and pattern. And a lot of fun to shoot, too. And the original GB again. held open. You know, memory gets old, but kind of forgot how gentle shooting these were. On the other hand, I also forgot how quickly this gas system heats up. Right here, this gas block and everything, it real hot real fast. In fact, it got so warm after just a couple of mags, and I did not even load these more than probably 15 rounds. It was ticking. Now granted, it was hot that day, don't get me wrong, but we shot other guns, they weren't ticking. It was just that warm, so we definitely had to let it cool off after just a couple of mags. Mini-14 GB AC556 were pretty successful for Ruger in the 80s, and they would build these through at least 1999. Now, a lot of people know them, of course, from the A-Team, but I really know them because of all the surplus prison guard and police guns that hit the market in the 90s and early 2000s. Now, this gun is blued, and actually it was dropped into the stock, but it is a GB, and it has threaded barrel, flash hider. Some of these devices were intended to launch like smoke canisters and other less lethal. And of course, it has essentially a STANAG bayonet lug. At that time, it would have been an M7. There we go. This one actually fits quite well on this. And some say GB stands for government bayonet, but according to Ruger documents, it's government barrel, probably government profile barrel, but probably GPB didn't sound as cool. So it was reliable, was reasonably successful, and what really helped Ruger, since this was a scaled down M14, M1 Grand, or even M1 Carbine, a lot of police officers were former service from Korea or even World War II. So the controls were familiar, and it didn't look especially evil or threatening in the hands of law enforcement, especially the fixed stock version. But even the folder, not too bad, really, if you think about it. So they found a market. But that accuracy, yeah. And these earlier versions had issues mounting optics, which iron sights were king in the 70s and 80s, but times would change. Manufacturing techniques would change. So really the purpose of this video, aside from just getting this older one as a loaner to try out, last year Ruger introduced the Mini-14 tactical folder. But truly, what it is, after about 25 years of being off the market, they brought back the Mini-14 GB. But how close to the original is it? Well, let's go inside to the table. Sorry, I would have done it outside, but again, hurricane remnant weather, do what we can do. And let's compare and contrast, find out. And I know this isn't the best lighting and everything, but, you know, needs must. Folding stock. Now, this one is missing the rear swivel, and it's got the bottom swivel. Oh well, just keep that in mind. Everything else is correct, including the original light profile 18-inch barrel. Here is the current version, just in, made 2024, with this wonderful quote-unquote matching mag. Now, of course, this is a stainless version, and a lot of your law enforcement guns, actually, at least the surplus ones I saw, were stainless. It does have the side sling mount as it should. Now, interestingly, it does have like a Uncle Mike style QD back here. Now, the small 1-inch diameter is correct, but I will point out that they went to QD mount in the rear, but okay. We have a plastic upper. It's definitely more of a modern polymer, as is the pistol grip. More of a matte. But it actually impressed me, even though this is a older, shinier, the checkering and everything, same type of pattern. And the upper handguard is too. Again, this you can definitely tell older style polymer, Bakelite if you prefer. newer. This also has more of a shiny finish to the wood. And this has more of an oiled matte finish, which I actually do prefer. But of course you can finish it however you want. They both have kind of this open top design. This has a Allen head screw there for the pistol grip. And I believe this is just a standard slotted. Yeah, the standard slotted. I mean, small difference, but hey. But what really impressed me, the stock itself. This has a little play, and it's not really from age. All the ones I ever held, now keep in mind I never held a brand new one from the 80s, but even ones that seemingly had a low round count just had some wiggle jiggle to them. And they have this locking stud on the side here. This style, keeping in mind this is new, it's much solider. Even the butt plate, once it's down, it's down. You notice when I move it, it kind of, the latch stays in place and it springs down. And it too has that locking stud on the side of the stock and locks up identically. Now when it's locked up, just like the original, it does have some play. It's just clipped on. And while it takes a little effort to fold these, to unfold, to get into use, yeah. And at first I thought this was a heavier gauge steel. And I'm sure they do use a more modern manufacturing technique. Yeah, if I put my finger in here, I can feel the walls are a little thinner. So I do think this original stock is slightly thinner. You're not going to bend either one, but now these stocks are actually made by Samson, but they are considered OEM by Ruger, which is pretty cool. And they do say that they are making these to original specifications, which I usually hear that and I think, yeah, right. But yeah, right. It is like the hinges and everything. I don't know if all the parts are completely interchangeable in the assembly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. And if anything, it does feel like they have tightened everything up. And that's what's kind of interesting about the Mini-14. This is one of the few guns, you know, usually we think older guns better. But with the Mini-14, it's one of those rare instances where that really might not be true.
Yeah, man, that's soft shooting. I'll give it that.
Yeah, maybe my memory's just old, but I don't remember those being that soft shooting. And that ammo is NATO spec, so...
Yeah, no, I mean, the ammo certainly, you know, felt and smelled punchy enough.
Oh, yeah.
It almost no recoil.
I'm sure you know the story. I already mentioned about the accuracy, but in 2003, Ruger got serious about reworking the Mini-14. And it started off with either buying new tooling, which that was the era, like CNC, more advanced machining, more computer, more automated. That was when it was coming in. The first thing they did was either tighten up existing tooling or just buy new tooling to help things out. Then they really studied why this thing wasn't that accurate. Reliable, yes, not that accurate. They did a few things. One, they went to a heavier profile barrel, which the newer gun does have. But you're not really going to see much of it in the front. It's more of a taper barrel, but you can see right here, it is a little bit thicker behind the front sight lug assembly. And it does get thicker as we meet up with the gas block area. Right there. You can tell there with that lip. So, a little bit heavier barrel, and unlike with the M16A2, they actually made it thicker where it counts. So that should help with the heating issue we pointed out during shooting. Second, they claim that the gas system was having vibrations, harmonic issues. So they reworked the gas block and to some extent the M14 M1 Grand style gas piston, the tappet system. I don't know the details of that, sorry, just not really my bag, but they did rework the gas system to try to give a little bit better accuracy. So that really was the start, and it didn't happen all at once. Between about 2003 and 2008, you'll see several small but important design, and they did reintroduce a tactical version with a 16-inch barrel, 16 and a quarter, 16 and a half, whatever, and they did have this style of flash hider, but not the bayonet lug. And while they would have folding stock assemblies or collapsing, they were typically modern chote or whatever style stocks, you know, the wood was kind of gone. They reworked the production line, and they did solve some issues. The accuracy was definitely improved by a couple of MOA. It's probably debatable exactly which. This is also around the time when you started seeing 556 markings appear on at least some of their guns. Maybe not all their target guns, but they're more service-oriented guns. And they also reworked the scope mounting system. Now, of course, for things like the ranch rifle, and you had all kinds of rings and scopes and what have you. But newer guns have true scope mounts here and here as a standard feature. It's actually pretty cool. This comes with a pick rail. It also comes with rings. So right out of the box, you do have sight options. For a while, they even played around with having a folding rear side, but they kind of got rid of that. That's going to help accuracy too. But again, we did not have a GB for a number of years, even if we had newer, effectively better tactical models.
There we go.
American rocket locks.
Yeah. Still got the same kind of issues as all rock and locks, being a giant pain in the ass, but it wasn't too bad. Mostly it just didn't want to kind of seat all the way at first.
Yeah. As I said earlier, one thing that surprises folks, even in 2024, the Mini-14 still takes its own mags. That's a bit of a detraction. Yeah, something that used to be a feature of this gun, a better alternative to an AR-15 M16 mag, is now a little bit of a detriment because it's not so much that these are expensive, but you can't always find them. Now, luckily, the gun does ship with two. You do have a last round hold open. There's no release as such. You just kind of have to do that if you want. Trigger's actually pretty decent on this. The gun does feel good in the hands. And the heavier barrel, you really don't notice. I haven't actually tried to do this, but let's, where'd my bayonet go? Let's try that same M7 bayonet. See how it fits. Yeah. Oh, that fits nice. It's on there, but there's no rattle at all. That's the sling swivel. Yeah, so that's a nice bayonet fit. The finish on the metal is more of a matte finish too, just like the stock, and I appreciate that. Another small difference I noticed, this muzzle device has a ring here, presumably for a spring if you wanted to put it on, and wrench flats. And the original does not. No ring cut and no wrench flats. Although I really do like this style. Just that kind of, and they both have it. So even the muzzle device is arguably improved. But what do you think? Do you think the classic still reigns king, or do you think Ruger has actually improved on a classic with the modern version? So we've been shooting 556 NATO spec ammo. We've had this arms core ammo floating around, and when it runs, it runs. When it doesn't, it doesn't. And it is known for having maybe a little bit hard primers. Then again, this is a government gun. So, yeah, let's see if it likes it. All right. Alrighty, let's try the Mini-14 with that arms core ammo. Or not.
Gonna try it again?
Now we'll see. Interesting. Well, we know the gun works, so we'll look at the primers on those cases and get back with you. Here's a couple of those cases. It dinged one and didn't the other. This arms core ammo, I've just concluded, has hard primers because it works fine in most combat guns, not the Wasp 3. But when you get American guns like that Ruger, which are kind of used to American ammo with the quote-unquote softer primers, it just doesn't hit it hard enough. I mean, we know that gun works because, well, you just saw it. But I was curious. Pop the mags out. This is an old school 30. It loaded a little funny after about 5 rounds. I'm not sure if there's a small ding in it or just, you know, old spring, but it fed just fine, as you saw. Here's the new one. Same style pattern. And this wonderful finish. Yeah. I know what they were going for. They failed. I thought we'd try the charging here. Ring. Now, this one is smoother. No arguments there. It's also got a lot more miles on it. So, it's not really a fair comparison. Brand new. And this one is not what I would consider rough. But it is unfired, aside from probably factory testing.
It felt hardly any punchier than like a PCC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
What are my final thoughts? I like it. I've always been partial to the original Mini-14 GBs. They have just a look to them that is so cool. And I owned 2 police trading guns in the past. But each time, someone offered me just more money than it was worth. In fact, these stocks became so valuable, which is why Samson was making reproductions. And why they were cool, as newer guns came along, as the AR-15 really matured, it really started to look dated, and not always in the good way. Plus, as anyone who follows the channel knows, I'm not the biggest M14 fan anyway. But I always did like the modern Mini-14s with some of the product improvements. In fact, it was over a Mini-14 that I met Jay 15 years ago. So I was pretty excited about these just to see how they worked out. And I expected them to be pretty good, but I would say, not having shot the new one yet, it does exceed expectations in most ways, except for maybe the mag. But I do think the stainless finish is kind of more iconic. Now, these are still built on an investment cast receiver. Ruger has actually pioneered quite a few casting techniques and revolvers, and all the Mini-14s, just like the Springfield M1As, were all cast. It's not a problem. It's fine. Just wanted to point that out. They haven't gone to a forged receiver because there's really no reason to. But other than that, and maybe the price tag, let's be honest, we live in a time right now where you can get a basic AR very cheap. These are not cheap, but they're kind of a commemorative edition, collector's edition gun. At least they do come with a bunch of accoutrement. But they're priced about like a mid-tier AR. And you do have to get their own mags. It comes with 2, but you're probably going to want more. That could be a detractor. It really could, if you're just wanting a practical gun. However, if you find an original Mini-14 GB, good luck with that. Also, as we mentioned, it didn't like that arms core ammo. And to be fair, that is probably at least partially that ammo's fault. I don't know. I just had 1 box in the range, that bucket that day. So, yeah. I want to run a new one with the arms core ammo. and see if it chokes as well, or if maybe there's a little more oomph behind the firing pin and all that. But, something for next time. But no, one of the few times, and this is coming from someone who loves history and loves classic guns. I mean, I own an original AR-180, not one of the newer ones. That apples to apples, if I had to pick, I would probably go with the newer construction. Although I do like the feel of the polymer on the original, the slick, glossy. This whole gun just has a glossier look to it. So, pros and cons to that. But yeah, trying to think of something new to bring you. And the original one we shot was a lot of fun. I forgot how much fun these could be. And I remember these stocks being god-awful uncomfortable. Wasn't too bad. Really wasn't. Maybe I've just gotten tougher over the years, because I remember when I was younger shooting these, it felt like it was beating me up. Who knows? But what do you think? Do you own one of the new ones? Or do you own one of the originals? And either way, we'd love to hear your own experiences. Again, folding the stock takes a little more time, but deploying, that's what really matters. And it does fold up for an 18-inch barrel gun, not counting the muzzle device. It's very slim. It's quite light. It had a lot going for it back in the day. It really did. Anyway, if you'd like to help support us, please do check out the link to Patreon. And if you can't help there, perfectly understand. Money's tight for all of us. Liking, sharing, subscribing, that helps a lot too. And we've done full videos on the M1 Grand, M14, all this gun's predecessors and inspirations. So check those out if you could too, please. With that, this is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.